Hello.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining a few minutes early. Ayesha, are you all on board and ready to present?
I guess I was muted there, yes. Hi, everyone. I'm glad to see so many of you in here, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful session.
Yeah, we'll start at precisely 19:00.
Yes, we will.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for coming through. Who's here from Regent? Nombolelo, is it you on tonight or is it Dipti?
I'm
Good
here
evening,
from Regent.
everyone. I'm from Region. I'm here, Mr. Hussein, today.
Okay, maybe show yourself, Nombolelo.
Okay, no problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nombolelo. She's recently joined us. She's in the
Let
employability
me get
unit.
some food later.
Get your camera on there. Yeah, she's based in Durban. She is at the employability unit at Regent. She'll share her email address closer to the end of the session. And yeah, anything you need in that direction regarding preparing for your next job, preparing for your next promotion, the person you need to talk to is Nombolelo. And she'll even give you a quick advert, Nombolelo, some of the projects that we're doing. You want to talk about the two apps that we've developed for the students?
Yes. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Hussein, for the introduction. My name is Nombulelo, and I am the employability officer. I am based at the Regent Business School campus at the Durban campus. So the exciting apps that we have launched is a CV writer tool. So it is a AI powered tool that assists you in generating a CV that is equipped for the demands of a 21st digital 21st market labor market industry. In conjunction to that, we also have the interview simulator. So now that you have used this CV that you have built with our tool, you're now invited for an interview. So you can now rehearse and practice and build that confidence for that interview using our interview simulator. So those are the two exciting apps that we are currently running. Feel free to go and have a look at them. Just visit our webpage and go under the employability and career services unit tab, and then you find everything that you need there. Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Just a quick, you forgot to mention the most important part, how expensive it is.
So by that he means that it's totally free as you are a Regent Business School student. So you just need your Regent Business School email address, and you're going to create a password, and then you can access these powered tools for free.
Fantastic.
Nice.
While the session is on or just before the end, maybe just find the URL for the website, specifically the page where it's on, and then just post it towards the end
On the
so people
chats.
can click on it and have a look at it. Guys, we have
Will do.
created these especially for you. Please go and I want to say play with it. It feels like play, but really go and engage with it. It's a very useful tool, and I'm sure you will benefit from it. So please go and use it, and exploit it to your benefit. 18:59 by my time, Aisha. I know my watch is
That's
usually
correct.
aligned to the satellite, so I got satellite time, and in the next 20 seconds you can get going. Thank you very much, Ayesha.
Thank you, Hussein. Yes, that's me. I'm just seem to have lost. Okay, I'm here. Let's share again. I lost my screen. Okay. So, hi, everybody. My name is, okay, we've still got a few seconds. Let's just wait for everyone to hop on, and we're going to start at precisely 7 o'clock. And give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Okay, perfect.
And it's 7 o'clock in Johannesburg. You know, we're always forward, so it's definitely 7
Oh,
o'clock.
yes, now it's definitely 7 o'clock. Let's get going. You're
Yeah.
always want to be one step ahead of Durban, isn't that? Well, we're catching up to you, Nombulelo, wouldn't you agree?
Definitely, you guys are almost there. Almost.
Almost there. Okay. Emotional intelligence. It's a word that's been around. You know, we speak about IQ, and EQ has been around for quite a few years now. And the recognition in the workplace has also been more enhanced than it has been in the past. So how do you enhance emotional intelligence for both personal development in your personal life and in your professional space? So before we dive in, I want you to take a minute and I want you to just think of a situation or a moment where you either stayed calm under pressure and achieved something, or perhaps when anger or fear caused you to miss an opportunity. Because despite what you might think, emotions, even if you're emotionally dead as you'd like to think, play a role in every interaction that we have, in every scenario, in every environment. So take a few seconds and actually think about this. When has there been a situation where your emotions have actually enabled you, you've been able to actually leverage off your emotions to get into a successful space, or it's actually hindered you from actually pursuing or missing an opportunity? So just think about that for a few seconds. Everyone has to, you can't tell me that there's been no situation. Even during the week, we are constantly being we run on our emotions. So there could not have been a situation where you have not encountered something which has caused you to react in a specific way. Now, what if I told you, hold on to that memory. What if I told you that the difference between these two outcomes, that means missing this opportunity or achieving success in a specific scenario, wasn't luck or circumstances and just your environment, but what's added to that, which actually enhances what the outcome was, is a specific set of skills that you can develop. And as we work through today's workshop, I want you to keep that in mind, that we're talking about emotional intelligence as a skill set, as something that you can develop. So we're going to be, I just want to change. Sorry. Right. We're going to be talking through various modules and various areas of emotional intelligence, specifically how to master emotional intelligence. Why emotional intelligence is your success multiplier. We're going to conduct a mini emotional intelligence assessment and go through the 4 domains of emotional intelligence mastery. Part of that emotional intelligence mastery is a method where we follow a certain practices in order to develop this skill set. And then we apply this framework to common challenges which we face, which then helps you to develop a plan which has a ripple effect on your life and how you actually approach certain situations. So what most people don't realize, and this is an astounding fact when I was doing my research, that we make over 35,000 decisions every day. But what was even more startling is that almost 90% of those decisions are actually driven by emotion. Now, I want you to think about that when you're responding or reacting to a situation, your emotions are actually driving the outcome of those decisions. 35,000 decisions daily, and 90% of them being driven by your emotions. So what we don't understand is how important then it is to be able to leverage off a skill set to be able to respond in a particular way during a specific scenario. Yet most of us have received zero training on how to understand, manage, or leverage our emotional intelligence effectively. So whether you're trying to advance your career, build better relationships, or simply feel more confident and resilient, we haven't actually been taught how to manage our emotions. And if you think back through your childhood, through as you when you become a teenager, everyone says you become more moody, and then as you go into adolescence and into your early 20s, your emotions at all of these stages are actually being developed, but no one actually teaches you how to manage or be aware of your emotions. Yet they play such a huge role in your everyday life. So today we're not just learning about emotional intelligence. You're going to actually experience it. This isn't just going to be something where I'm going to talk to you and have you just hear me talk and talk at you. I want you to experience it and to practically be able to walk away afterwards and apply what we learn here on an everyday basis. Okay? So now that we've spoken about this, what if you could harness emotional intelligence as your secret weapon for both personal breakthroughs and career advancement? The actual truth of the matter is that it's a skill, and how you actually leverage of it is what's going to be the takeaway today. So I want to bring to your attention some of these facts which I came across as I was preparing for this. And I was astounded by these, and I'm sure that you will be too. Self-awareness. High emotionally intelligent individuals with high emotional intelligence make 73% better decisions under pressure. So what does that actually mean? That means that if you're able to actually take a minute and step back and actually apply skills related to emotional intelligence, you are more likely to make a better decision. And can you imagine what the ripple effect is in terms of the outcomes that you have both in your personal relationships and in your career? Emotional intelligence accounts for 58% of job performance across all industries. So a lot of the time, there's this misconception, or we have a perception that people perform better based solely on their IQ. But studies have shown that emotional intelligence accounts for 58% of job performance. And I personally have seen this. I've been in a managerial role in a corporate environment, and I can, without a doubt, say that I have seen this through interacting with individuals that are both super intelligent, but what gives the one that actually performs better or that edge is having that emotional intelligence. Leadership success. 90% of top performers possess high emotional intelligence. And then we're going to go into more the psychological level and how it actually impacts on your personal well-being. Emotionally intelligent professionals experience 60% less burnout and anxiety. And more importantly, and I think this for me was the most important stat out of them all. People with strong emotional intelligence report 85% greater overall well-being. Now, I want you to actually think about that. This just isn't about career success. This is about life satisfaction also. So when we're talking about emotional intelligence, whilst we talk of it as being, and we're looking at it from the lens of your career development, think about your overall well-being, how being aware of your emotions will impact on your overall well-being, not only on a career level, but also in a personal capacity. So I want you all now to take a minute, and I want you to be aware of situations where your emotions are actually hindering or actually helping your success. And I want you to just give me a thumbs up if you can identify, if you have the awareness or have been able to identify in your own mind situations where your emotions have actually resulted in a specific outcome in a situation. So just give me a thumbs up so that I know that we're all on the same page here. I want you to just think off the top of your head, because of the way we live our lives, when your emotions actually result in outcome of a situation. Okay, great. So now let's address the elephant in the room. Most people immediately associate emotions with being touchy-feely, or if you're someone who's a bit more stoic, you're probably sitting here wondering, is this really something for me? And am I supposed to be sitting in this room right now because I don't want to become touchy-feely. I don't want to have to express all my emotions. But when people hear emotional intelligence, the natural reaction is to immediately make that association, or they think that it means suppressing your emotions to be professional. But that's not what it's about. Emotional intelligence is about leveraging emotional data. That is so I've used the word data in the same sentence as emotional intelligence, which not many people usually make the association. It's about making better decisions, building better relationships, and achieving your goals faster by understanding what your emotional intelligence skills are. It's not about being nice, it's about being effective. Okay, so let's look at, where do you stand right now? Let's find out in your personal space right now, how do you rate on a level of 1 to 10, which we're now going to do a mini assessment or audit of your emotional intelligence. So I want you to just grab a pen and page. I'm going to give everyone a few seconds to just grab a pen and paper. And I want you to be brutally honest with yourself, because I'm going to talk you through specific areas, and I want you to rate yourself on these areas. And then we're going to identify those areas which require development. So you've got a few seconds to quickly run and get yourself a pen and paper if you don't already have one. And we're going to jump straight into our emotional intelligence audit. Okay? Right. The first area that we're going to cover is self-awareness. Now, what is self-awareness? Self-awareness is understanding your emotions, okay? And I'm going to talk through specific questions, and then I want you to rate yourself from 1 to 10. 1 is going to be at the lower end. And remember, this isn't about looking good. No one is going to see your score. It's about growing. It's about having a growth mindset. I think someone is not on mute. You can just mute yourselves. Thank you. This isn't about looking good, and nor is it about judging yourself. It's about actually growing as a person and actually looking for areas where you can develop yourself into a better person, not only for yourself, but for your relationships and for your career development. So 1 is something that I'm struggling with significantly on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 is I'm highly skilled at this. So this requires you actually auditing yourself and being honest with yourself. So let's start with self-awareness, understanding your emotions. So I'm going to read through a few line items, and I want you to rate yourself. The first one under self-awareness is, I quickly identify what I'm feeling and why. I quickly identify what I'm feeling and why. I want you to rate yourself on that. On a scale of 1 to 10. Okay. Number 2, I understand what situations activate my emotional responses. I understand what situations activate my emotional responses. Okay. We're then going to look at your strengths and weaknesses. I have clear insight into my emotional patterns. I have clear insight into my emotional patterns. And then impact awareness. I understand how my emotions affect my behavior. So I want you to rate yourself on those. I'm going to quickly go through them one more time. I quickly identify what I'm feeling and why. I understand what situations activate my emotional response. I have clear insight into my emotional patterns. And I understand how my emotions affect my behavior. Now, take those scores and give yourself a score for self-awareness. We're now going to move on to self-management. Self-management is about regulating your emotions effectively. And now we're going to do the same exercise as we did self-awareness, where you're going to rate yourself on the following statements. I stay calm and focused under pressure. Think about the last time you were in a crisis. I stay calm and focused under pressure. Is it something you struggle with? Are you more on the scale of 1:3? Or it's something that you have a handle on? I stay calm and focused under pressure, and you're more on the higher end of the scale. That is your emotional control. Okay? Adaptability. I adjust my emotional responses based on the situation. I adjust my emotional responses based on the situation. Motivation. I obtain and maintain optimism and drive even when facing setbacks. I maintain optimism and drive even when facing setbacks. And then stress management. I have effective strategies for managing overwhelming emotions. So I'm going to quickly read through those again. I want you to rate yourself on each of these statements. I stay calm and focused under pressure. Think about the last time you were in a crisis. I adjust my emotional responses based on the situation. I maintain optimism and drive even when facing setbacks. And I have effective strategies for managing overwhelming emotions. The third area that we're going to look at is social awareness. Social awareness is how do you read the room? How do you read others' emotions? Are you able to? So let's look at it from the lens of empathy. I accurately perceive what others are feeling. Rate yourself on
Aisha, sorry,
that.
just to quickly, sorry, Aisha, just
Yes.
to quickly intervene. Are you reading the questions of a slide? And maybe I'm not on the same slide as you.
No, I'm not on a slide.
Oh, they're not. Okay, you're just reading the questions, and this is the rating
Yes.
scale that people must use.
Correct.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you.
No stress. I understand emotional dynamics in groups. I recognize and respond to others' emotional needs. And I read power dynamics and unspoken emotional currents. So I want you to rate yourself on your social awareness, regulating others' emotions. So each of these areas actually influence how you actually respond to a situation. Now look at your 4. I want you to add up all of those scores and look at those 4 scores. And your lowest score is your biggest opportunity for growth. Your highest score is what you actually leverage in a situation. Okay? So what we're going to now look at is the framework, the emotional intelligence development framework. Now, this framework, if you think of it, is the foundation for emotional intelligence. It's kind of like how you have a house, and each of these levels form part of the house. But the foundation of emotional mastery and emotional skill, intelligence skills is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the key. Emotional self-awareness results in an accurate self-assessment and also allows for self-confidence. So you need to think of emotional intelligence like this house, which has these four walls, but the foundation of these four walls, the one has to be the strongest, is self-awareness, okay? You cannot manage what you don't understand. So if you're not aware of something, obviously you're not going to be able to manage it. You're not going to be able to improve on it if you do not have self-awareness about it. So when I first learned about emotional intelligence, I discovered that I had a pattern of getting defensive when receiving feedback. Even if someone says to you that it's constructive feedback, I thought people were attacking me personally. And once I recognized this pattern, I could catch it happening and control it. So when I say control it, I mean that I'm now able to respond differently. So in your personal life, how might this look? This might look like recognizing when you're losing, someone says something to you and then you become defensive. That is how it might look like. In a professional setting, it might look like losing confidence in meetings. That is how you identify what it is that actually causes you to respond in a specific way in a specific scenario. Let's look at self-management now. What is self-management? Self-management is emotional leadership and regulation. So what are the emotional intelligence skills that you need to master to be able to manage yourself and your level of emotional intelligence within the framework? So it's emotional self-control, adaptability, achievement orientation, and having a positive outlook. It's how you manage. So one is having the self-awareness and two is self-management. So let's look at that. So self-management is actually where the rubber meets the road. So this is about staying calm. It's actually when they say you're a ticking time bomb, and actually that has actually gone off now. It's before you meet that point, before you've actually blown your top. It's about staying calm in the moment. It's about keeping your composure, for example, when someone is giving you feedback that you may not necessarily agree with. So it's not about the key point that I want to raise here, that it's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about choosing your response. So there's a space between trigger and reaction. And emotionally intelligent people are actually able to learn to use this space effectively to respond. So it's not about reacting, it's about how you respond in that time. The third area or the third wall of the house is social awareness, reading the emotional landscape, reading the room. So, usually the term that they use is reading the room. When you walk into a room and you're able to sense what is it that people are, what level of emotion someone may be experiencing in that time contextually. And the skills that are relevant to social awareness are empathy, organizational awareness, and service orientation. And what does this actually look like? So it's about being aware of body language, for example. So generally speaking, most people are constantly broadcasting what their emotional state is. You need to be able to pick up on these cues and read the room, the emotional landscape, so that you can then respond in an accurate and appropriate way. And people do this through their tone, their body language, their energy level, and it's not necessarily what they might be saying. So, for example, if I say to you, I'm fine. How am I saying it to you? Give me a thumbs up if you think that I'm actually feeling not okay, that my tone is actually clipped and very short. I'm actually displaying a situation where I'm actually feeling emotionally low, or I'm experiencing something which is causing me to be curt. So as you can tell, social awareness is reading my cues, and that is in the tone in which I actually said something. It could be my body language, the way in which I'm actually standing also. So how I could say it's fine, and that would have been totally different to actually saying it's fine. And then we move on to relationship management. Relationship management is the influence and connection master. So what skills are required here? It's influence, how you coach and mentor that relationship, conflict management, team leadership, and inspirational leadership. So it's where you become truly influential. And this isn't about manipulation. It isn't about manipulating a situation or a relationship. It's about actually creating emotional climates which are healthy for two people or a team. Because teams thrive in situations or circumstances where you as a leader read from a point of high emotional intelligence, where everyone can be their best. So when you master this domain, you are actually allowing people to be themselves and allowing people to be able to express themselves. So all of these concepts are very powerful, but they're only valuable if you can apply them in real time. So we're going to look at how do we actually do this practically, okay? There's a method called the STOP method, the emotional intelligence stop method. So when you're facing emotional triggers such as stress or conflict or disappointment or pressure, emotionally intelligent people pause and process. It's called the stop method. And the word itself, stop, is obviously, so it's an easy term to remember because it's self-explanatory. It immediately tells you that you're creating this barrier before you can respond. Remember, I don't use the word react, I use the word respond. So first, stop. I'm having a strong emotional reaction right now. That's what you say to yourself. It's a technique that you're going to teach yourself, that you will respond in a particular situation by actually first stopping and acknowledging for yourself, I am having a strong emotional reaction right now. So this isn't just theory. It's about how you can practically apply something when you're faced with a situation which is causing emotional triggers, right? So you literally say to yourself, stop, and you're actually interrupting an automatic pattern. So whereas you would automatically revert to how you would typically react, you're now asking yourself and stopping yourself from reacting before you respond. Then the T stands for take a breath. Stop, take a breath. Breathe in. You don't realize how closely linked your emotional reactions are to your bodily function. Your heart starts racing, you might start feeling sweaty, your palms get sweaty, you begin to hyperventilate if you're feeling something that is causing an emotional trigger. So stop and take a breath and then identify how you are feeling. Now, when I say identify how you are feeling, I don't just mean to say, oh, I'm feeling bad in this moment. Think more deeper than that. How is this situation making me feel? Am I feeling anger? Am I feeling fear? Am I feeling frustration or excitement? And then observe the situation objectively. What is really happening here versus what I'm interpreting? It's very easy for us to create an idea in our heads of what our perception of what a situation is, especially when we're looking at it from our lens or our side of the table only without actually considering the other side. So stop, take a breath, and identify what it is that you are feeling, and then observe the situation objectively. What is really happening here versus what I am interpreting it. And then P, proceed with intention. What response, not reaction, what response would serve my goals and relationships best? Because at the end of the day, we want the best outcome for any situation. You want it to serve us in the long term and for our future selves, you want it to serve us as a positive goal. So what response would serve my goals and relationships best without being self-absorbed and without being showing a self-interest only in how it affects you? You respond from wisdom rather than react from emotion. And that is the hallmark of emotional mastery. So I want you to take that down, the stop method. Stop, take a breath and identify what exactly am I feeling, observe the situation, and then proceed with intention. What response would serve my goals and relationships best? This method works best once you have mastered self-awareness. Remember, we spoke about the house. And once you are self-aware, this method will then work best because you are able to work from a place of actually having worked to identify triggers for yourself and what situations or where you are or how you can identify what in terms of your own emotional intelligence framework, where you are lacking and where your strengths are, and then leverage off of those in such a situation. Okay. So practice 2 is self-management, understanding your emotional intelligence patterns and triggers. So your emotional intelligence development requires understanding your unique emotional operating systems. Everyone is unique and everyone will have a specific way. And I like to refer to this as your emotional intelligence archaeology, because we're actually digging into something. We're digging deep into your emotional operating system. And everyone has patterns. Some of them serve you, some of them don't serve you. The key is making the conscious and unconscious realization of what is actually serving you and helping you to do and be better and what isn't. So I want you to think about this. When you're feeling emotions, do I avoid certain situations? What situations constantly trigger strong emotional responses in me? What situations, how do I typically handle a stressful situation? These are the questions you need to ask yourself when you're doing this exercise of developing this framework for yourself. That what are situations that you avoid? What are my triggers? How do I handle stress and situations where I'm under pressure? And what drives me? What emotions drive me to respond or react in a particular situation? Self-awareness is the foundation, and without it, you cannot manage what you don't understand. Okay? So let's look at pattern recognition. We all naturally fall into a specific pattern when we are responding in a situation. And I want you to let's do a little exercise. I want you to think of a challenging situation from this past week. And I want you to track your emotional journey. By doing so, I don't want you to judge yourself. I want you to just be aware of it. And I want you to understand, how did you react in that? Did you suppress your emotions? Did you express it? Or was it something else? I want you to think about that. And then I want you to think about what was the outcome after you responded or reacted. What was the outcome of that emotional response? How did
Sorry,
yes?
Ayesha, sorry to trouble you again. Somebody just put it on the group there. Or did somebody answer? The acronym STOP stands for?
Do you want me to go back?
Just read it out. Somebody typed it out on
So
the
it's
chat there.
okay, yeah. So S is for stop. T is for take a
No,
breath and identify.
strong. No, S is for strong emotional response.
Yes. So
Carry
you
on.
stop.
Carry on. Carry
Yeah.
on.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I get it. I lost you there for a moment. Okay. Okay. I got you now. Where was I? Okay. We were talking about your pattern recognition, and we spoke about what is the outcome? What is the impact of the outcome? And did your emotional response help or hurt the situation? And then I want you to think about If you had the skills for emotional intelligence, what would that have looked like? If you had the self-awareness and applied the stop method, how differently would that have played out? So this emotional pattern actually limits your effectiveness, or it will actually aid your effectiveness in a situation. It depends on how you respond in that. And we come back again to self-awareness being the crucial element of being able to respond in this situation. It's about understanding yourself, and it's about understanding and influencing others. So once we understand our self-awareness, self-management, which is understanding your patterns and your triggers, the third and fourth practice is reading others and managing relationships. So what is that? Social awareness practice is reading emotional cues, which we spoke about, such as body language, the emotional intelligence observation skills. And these cues can appear in many different ways. We spoke about verbal cues, the manner in which I said, it's fine. It could have been said in many different ways, and that is a verbal cue. Then you get non-verbal cues, which is body language. Body language as in how someone might actually be standing. They might actually be standing with their arms crossed. Or are they standing with an open way with their hands steeped, where they're actually leaning forward and they're actually opened to feedback in a situation, for example, where someone is giving feedback. Is someone leaning in for the feedback, or are they sitting back with their arms crossed? These are ways of actually reading emotional cues in a situation so that you can respond in an appropriate manner. Behavioral cues. For example, maybe someone has had a bad evening and they've come to work the next day, and you notice that they're usually talkative, but now they're much quieter. In that situation, what you will find is you're reading on behavioral cues. And those behavioral cues are changes in patterns that typically might occur. So maybe someone who's talkative who's now quiet, or maybe in a situation where, if it's a personal situation, someone usually responds very quickly to your WhatsApp message, but now they're taking a really long time. But then again, there's a lot of context, and then it comes down to contextual cues. What's happening in a person's life, in an environment, that maybe you need to be actually reading into in order to be able to pick up on these emotional cues. These are observation skills. So, for example, once you read these, you are then able to then put it into a framework to be able to effectively manage your emotional intelligence framework. So there are four tools, I would say, that relate to emotional intelligence communication. And it's the manner in which you respond in a situation. So, for example, if you come to work and you see someone's having a really difficult time and they're had an emotional outburst. So it could be situational, because although it's something that's happened outside of a work environment, it's actually played out in a work context because it's now impacting on their work. So what do you do first? You acknowledge. I can see that something is happening. I can see something is really important to you. And you're showing them that you're validating their emotional experience. So that is how the emotional intelligence response framework works. First, by acknowledging. Number two, you validate. You validate the person's emotions. So you're actually say something like, that sounds frustrating, where you're actually acknowledging that person's emotion and you're acknowledging the way that they are feeling. You're showing empathy. The third area is the bridge. So you acknowledge first, and then you validate. You validate how they are feeling by showing empathy. And the third area of the framework is the bridge. So where you actually reach out to the person and you inquire, how can I help you? What can I do to make it better or help you? So you're moving towards a solution. That is the bridge, where you actually move towards a solution from a point of conflict or upheaval to a solution. So acknowledge the person, validate their feelings, and then create a bridge by actually taking them over to a solution, and then commit, where you take action and you say, maybe you need some time. Would you like to maybe complete this later? I can see you're having a difficult time. And you give them some leeway, or you acknowledge, here's what I can do to help you. It's actually taking action and giving the person by actually acknowledging the situation, and then moving to an outcome which is more favorable. So this can play out in both your personal life and in the professional life. So how you respond makes a person feel heard and understood. And that's when real influence happens. By actually acknowledging, reading others, and managing your relationships is when real influence happens. And how you do that happens in a way by, I'm going to explain to you, we're now going to talk about 4 areas how people typically respond in an emotionally challenging situation. And these 4 areas are how you apply emotional intelligence to these common challenges. The first one that I want to speak about is the emotional overwhelm pattern. So what happens in this scenario is when you get flooded by emotions. And I want you to, as I talk through these 4 patterns, I want you to identify for yourself which one you fall into. That you will typically lean more into one pattern of behavior than another, but obviously there will be overlaps that will occur. So the emotional overwhelm pattern occurs when you are flooded by emotions and makes decisions that you generally regret later. So if you're a highly reactive person and you react from a place of emotion, more often than not, if you're someone who has the self-awareness, you will regret a decision later if you reacted out of a place of anger or frustration or discomfort, where you get so angry during a situation, for example, that you say something that you might regret, or where you lose credibility in a professional environment. This is about self-management. So what do you do in this situation? In this situation, the focus is self-management. So where there's emotional overwhelm, the focus is self-management, and specifically emotional self-control and stress management. Because when we're more stressed out, that we are more likely to react from a place of overwhelm. So let's look at this and what is the reflection point that comes out of all of this? If this is you, you need to ask yourself, what typically triggers your emotional overwhelm pattern? What are the triggers that cause you to fall into this pattern? And how can you create space between the trigger and the reaction? The next one that I want to speak about is the emotional blindness pattern. Now, in this scenario, it's where people are so totally, and I was going to use the word self-absorbed, or so into themselves, that they're so unaware of what someone else is actually experiencing, that they have chosen to only look at it from their perspective, that they are unawares. So if you're someone who falls into this pattern, you will find that you're only focused on your own perspective, and that you miss important emotional information that people are actually feeding you, that you're missing the emotional cues that people are feeding towards you. And not noticing this, what actually happens is then people who need your support actually lose your support because you're not even aware of it. So what is the focus here? This is about social awareness. So we spoke about social management for emotional overwhelm, and for emotional blindness, here the key is social awareness, empathy, and organizational awareness. So from a personal perspective, it would be empathy. And if you're looking at it from a professional and an organizational perspective, it is organizational awareness, okay? What would you do in this situation? You need to look at what are the emotional cues that you are typically missing. How could you improve your empathy in the situation? How could you be more aware of cues that people give off in a situation? How can you read the room better? The third emotional pattern that we're going to talk about is the emotional avoidance pattern. The emotional avoidance pattern is when you actually avoid conversations. And many people do this, where they actually avoid a situation and they don't want to actually acknowledge that there is a problem or there is an issue at hand, and they prefer to just sweep it under the carpet. In this situation, it is about relationship management because you don't want to actually face a person. It usually comes down to actual relationships and human interaction, and you don't want to have that interaction. So it comes down to relationship management, conflict management, and communication. These are the key skills that you need to be able to learn to implement if you're someone who typically avoids emotional situations and engaging in them. The fourth area that is, or pattern, is the emotional inconsistency pattern. And this one's a bit more tricky, I would say, compared to the others, because it's sometimes can be confusing for people around you if you're a very moody person and they're unable to read you. This also might be because of the way in which you respond in situations, but mood swings that confuse people or team members not knowing which version of you that they're actually going to get when they come to pitch up at work, which can be very unsettling both in a personal relationship and in a team environment. This is a combination of both self-awareness. It requires self-awareness and self-management. It's a bit more complex to deal with, and I would actually say that if you find this being your pattern, that you need to, more often than not, there is a level of whilst you're combining both self-awareness and self-management, there might be the need to actually speak to someone about it. If you find yourself flitting between emotions so erratically that people are unaware of or are walking on, they're walking on glass around you because they're not sure how to actually respond, and stepping around you because they don't know if you're just going to, is it going to be the nice Ayesha, or is it going to be the Ayesha that's all, ratty and going to just blow their top off. In this situation, you need to ask yourself, how can you get greater self-awareness? Self-awareness is the foundation for this, because you need to sit with yourself and reflect and be able to identify what is it that's causing this emotional inconsistency pattern. Okay? So I would like you to take a moment and look at these three patterns, emotional patterns, and identify where do you sit. Is it the overwhelm, blindness, the avoidance patterns, or the inconsistency pattern? And then from there, be able to identify which skills you are required to then develop further in order for you to increase your emotional intelligence. So awareness is the first step, but change requires a plan. So let's look at how do we develop an emotional intelligence action plan that will help you to track you to be able to have a, I put there emotional intelligence transformational challenge, but you're not going to people don't just transform overnight, but it's about having that awareness so that you can build towards it. Okay. So I just want to move my screen. Sorry, my screen's just gone blank here. Okay. The self-awareness track. So if you're someone, you need to be clear on your vision. So change happens when you have a plan for yourself, and you would have identified in that self-audit which areas are the areas that you are lacking in, or you find that your score was low. Those are the areas you need to focus on first. Remember, the self-awareness track is the foundation building, the area where you need to be very specific and honest with yourself, and very aware and have this self-awareness in order for you to be able to successfully implement a development action plan. Okay, so I'm going to read a few statements to you, and I want you to just think about them and be specific and honest about them with yourself. The emotionally intelligent person I'm becoming is, and I want you to think about that statement for yourself. And the emotional intelligence skill I'm most ready to develop is. So with this, I'm going to walk through this challenge. If you scored lowest in self-awareness, I want you to do daily check-ins with yourself. That means this is building up that self-reflection. I want you to do daily check-ins with your emotions. This is how you build the foundation for self-awareness. And get feedback from others. If you have someone that you're close to, or maybe within your family or your friends, get feedback for others, and just tell them to walk this journey with you as you become more self-aware of your emotions, because the people that you spend the most time around with are your best critics. They're the people who will be able to immediately be able to identify where it is that you would have identified it, and they would be able to actually confirm for you that they've seen you respond or react in situations in a particular way because of scoring low in these areas. Then if you look at the self-management track, that is your emotional regulation. And this is where we spoke about the emotional overwhelm pattern, where you will need to actually I would recommend implementing stress management techniques, maybe perhaps doing things which actually allow you to lower your cortisol levels, adaptability exercises, motivational exercises, maybe even journaling. For some people, that might be journaling, and that might actually work well for you. For others, it might actually be impulse control training, but there are different ways of actually learning how to self-manage your emotions and actually be able to upscale emotional regulation. The social awareness track, which is reading others. So how do we read the room? This requires you actually developing a skill in being able to be aware of people around you and stepping outside of your own perception of people, which can be difficult at times. So it's about nonverbal cues, those organizational dynamics awareness within a work environment, and service orientation. The relationship management track, this and about communicating with people. And this is generally for people who have avoidance patterns. Communication practice. Communicate, communicate, communicate. It's the key to actually building relationships. Conflict resolution skills work really well in this track, and leadership presence. So having someone lead you through this helps you to actually build on it. So as we can see, I want you to decide which of these tracks you're committing to, and then I want you to just I want you to actually commit to one of these tracks and just type in the chat box which one of them, or if you're not brave enough to do so, give me a thumbs up that you've identified which of these tracks you will be working on going forward. Great. Okay. Before we wrap up, there are a lot of questions that I often receive when we do this type of training, and they relate to having, questions about if I'm normally an analytical person, does it mean that now I've got to be emotional and it's going to make me a more messy person? This isn't about being that. It's about using your emotions as data. It's about how you actually frame it. So what is the emotional intelligence ripple effect? So it's your impact on personal growth and professional excellence. So how does this personal transformation occur? What you don't realize is that personal emotional intelligence is contagious. When you're in a room with someone who has a high emotional intelligence, you actually, without you realizing it, you also vibrate at a higher level. So if you talk about vibrations and energy, you also respond at a higher level. And your response in these situations is parallel to how someone else is actually performing in an environment. So when you develop your emotional intelligence, you're not improving just yourself, you're improving the environment around you. You transform every environment that you enter. personal transformation. So what does this look like for you? It's about not reacting, it's about responding, it's about your resilience, becoming unshakable because you can process and learn from your different experiences and from your emotions, your relationships. This is about how you respond and how you interact with people. They improve from having a higher emotional intelligence, and your influence. Your influence because people can see that you are a more grounded person. And this transformation will transfer into both your personal and your professional transformation. Your performance improves, your leadership skills improve, you have a greater team impact because people are more likely to want to or gravitate towards you, and your career trajectory is, as a result of your performance, your leadership, and your team impact, has this multiplier effect, which we spoke about, then has an impact on your career, which is why I speak about the emotional intelligence multiplier effect, where you're creating positive emotional climates that bring out the best in everyone around them. So as you can see, we've spoken about the different areas and what actually makes up the house for the emotional intelligence house, how to actually deal with it with the STOP method, and how to actually, what are the key areas and the different tracks that you should focus on in order to improve your emotional intelligence for your own personal growth and your professional excellence. I just wanted to leave a few minutes 5 minutes for any questions that anyone might have. I'm just going to, if you have any questions.
Ayesha, while you get that, let me just answer one or two questions. This clip will be available. This recording of this clip will be available in the next day or two, as well as the slides. Keep an eye out on your emails. We'll indicate to you where it will be available, but it will be shared and available. Thank you very much for the positive comments. When are we having the next session? There are 4 webinars for you for the year. So this is the second one, meaning we're doing 2 in the first semester and 2 in the second semester. So this is the second one for the first semester. The recording of the one that you may have missed is also available on the site. When I email it to you in the next day or two, you'll be able to access the recording of the previous one. The previous one was also exceptionally good. It was on time management. And I think this one on emotional intelligence very, very nicely balances with it. Ayesha, thank you for this, but we can take a few questions if you've got time and a few others got time.
I hope that it was, more importantly, and if you have any questions, I'm open to any questions, anything that you might have. But more importantly, I hope that you were able to walk away with something that you can actually practically implement in your daily life, both in your personal capacity and in your professional capacity.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Ayesha. Nombulelo, you just need to take note. I think we need to do an exercise on breathing exercises. Ayesha, I'm sure you can talk an hour on that, the whole art behind breathing. And I think it very much talks to some of the things that you've raised here. So breathing exercises.
You don't realize how people, we take it for granted that we take our bodies for granted, and how interconnected our bodies are to the way in which we respond and the way in which we react. So being aware of your body, being aware of the way you are breathing. There are different types of breaths for different situations, whether you want to be energized, whether you want to feel calm. There are short breaths, deep breaths, whether you take it in from your tummy or from your chest. All of those are really important in regulating your emotions.
Fantastic. Ayesha, we started on time. We got a minute to spare. I want to just congratulate Ernest Mashlongo again. I think he has acknowledged receiving this. Ernst, thank you very much for your active participation early on. We appreciate it. And we'll send you a small consolation prize, but don't advertise what it is. Otherwise, everyone's going to be active in the next webinar. And so this is just between you and me for now, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Righto. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Ayesha.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
How you guys?
Good night.
How they give presents for joining in.
Yo, that must be
for
nice.
participating.
How that must be nice, eh?
Postgraduate students.
That must be nice. Okay. Now I know next time to join.
Next time we must anticipate.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah, bro.
Just join. Are you from the Cape Town branch?
Sorry, was that question posed to?
Are you from the Cape Town branch?
Yes, I'm from the Cape Town branch. Yes.
Oh, lekker. And how's it that side?
But actually, I'm doing it like online distance learning. I'm not physically in the campus.
Okay. And tell me something. Do you write exams online or do you write online, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's strictly online, so everything is online. There's a small world which we download, something that will monitor you during the exams. So everything is online. Your assignments, exams, everything, courses, everything.
Okay. And your name again?
Yeah, it's Gershwin.
Person. Okay. Pleasure meeting. Well, chatting to you.
Yeah.
Oh, lekker.
So,
What you studying?
and which side are you from?
I'm from Durban. I was actually there about a month ago in Cape Town.
Like, man, where in Cape Town you were at the branch or you just visiting
You know,
Cape Town?
you know where's Lansdowne?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, you
Yeah,
were at
good.
Lansdowne.
Yeah,
Lekker.
in Goodwood.
Yeah, nice. Now I'm here in Stellenbosch, the wine lands.
Ooh, five roses. What four cousins? Ah, lekker. You're on Instagram, fam.
Sorry?
You're on Instagram.
Nah, I don't do Instagram. I'm just scrolling through there. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do Instagram as well.
Oh, where? I'll pick up
I'm not.
your.
I'm not big on social media. You understand? Just
Yeah, no,
keeping it
it's just
low key.
that I'm not used to this whole region student number and type out if I like want to reach out with anybody. I gotta type numbers. I'm like, yo, this is like BPM.
Yo, you're taking back to BBM. Damn.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
like,
So the only way is you have to have the student number and stuff like that. There.
yeah, no, like it, bro. Anyways, I shall check out folks in the next session.
Yeah, we will catch up surely. So, sir.
Cheers.
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 Good
Bye.
evening. Bye.
Safin maç. Akşam ifade ofisine. Canım minufin. Ben ngaba neyimini. No, nasolo okusile ngiyinto ayikhulumile. Obviously in the mood. Well, we all have our bad days. This was more than just a bad day. I might as well one. I'm judging by his mood.